vlog day. It's another day out here in the Mohave Desert. I have enough oatmeal cookies and water and gas that I can get to the next fuel station if I stay here a couple days. It's nice being out here. It's really quiet. Do I feel lonely? No. I do believe that there's a presence. I mean, like, okay, I got P.O. Box 111, Hotel Room 111, P.O. Box 111, and then Hotel Room 128, but it was the time 11:11 on the clock. You're telling me the only way that could have happened was. See, somebody drives by. I've been here all day. No one's been on this road. In the very moment. Very moment. Anyway. Yeah. Mohave Desert. Mohave. Yeah, the people who came by yesterday were there until all last night, and then they did a couple looks. It is pretty striking when you're alone in the desert like this to see lights. You're like, who are you? You know what I mean? Anyway, I've been watching the Noah's flood stuff. I slept pretty good. And my issue my whole life has been lifelong, like crippling loneliness, like no ability to connect with others. And I blame Christianity. I'm having a mind blower of a situation because I used to have atheist on my dog tags. I was a vocal opponent of Christianity. I said it's just not real. And then my experiments with psychedelics brought me back to religion. I said, "Oh, obviously this is what they were talking about." Let me be known for who I am. I think that under the right universal influence and the combination of psychedelics, that either it could be a conspiracy of humans who like making it seem like it is that way, but I think it's a real paranormal event, and I think you need people around when you do it. You want to have someone just as yacked as you, and then you want to have someone who's completely stone cold sober, but is like a good motherly type person. They can they use soft language and corral. They don't bring up issues or worries. They're just kind of like they're easy. Anyway, yeah. So the existence of the subnautical layer, or what I know of as mind, um, it's all is mind. There's nothing you see in creation that's not a part of that's not directly made by you for you. You know what I mean? Is there's nothing you can witness that exists on its own. That's, I think, why we find things like conflict so shocking, is that we are simulating a world that hates us. You know what I mean? But it's a little deeper than that. Is it seems like there might be a transcendental superconsciousness, right? And what's weird about it is it seems like this thing both exists and it never told anyone to write the Bible either. It's a very poetic, very interesting, very deep being. Better found on your own than believed anything about it through any other convention. But I'm telling you, you're going to go to the point where you see each other's imaginations in real life. I mean, I had seen a person with the flower of life perfectly superimposed on their skin, right? Like under the skin, like as real as geometry. And he's like, I get that, right? Later, I was walking up Sedona and I felt like that flower of life was on my skin. And a couple stopped and told me they saw it. How? Someone who's tripping on psychedelics, you don't even have to be on them. You'll see the trip with them. You'll be a part of it. So there's something going on in either how we understand each other, like automatically mirrored neurons. Like you could be able to look at a person and know what they're thinking. Well, if he's in a heavy psychedelic trip, a properly empathic person should be able to witness that as well. But I think it's not out that uh, God exists. But as people have pointed out, like I'm going down the reel that the Bible is complete fiction because there's no Noah's flood. It's just the fact that the physical environment doesn't look like a flood like that happened, or it's just the flood was so ubiquitous it's put a blind spot on us. The most obvious evidence we just can't see because it's the only ubiquitous evidence there is. You know what I mean? Can you see the blueness of the sky, sort of thing? Um, But I think it's more likely that the book telling you, swearing to you, is telling you the truth was just making it up. And it's offensive because if there is a real God, if there is a transcendental superconsciousness, if between my body and your body is emptiness, and that emptiness is conscious of us, right? That's physically provable enough. That's physically delineated enough that people will know what I'm talking about. And I'm doing this from the sheer like interest of humanity. Like, guys, I want you to survive. Guys, I want you to make it into the future. Yeah, I've had some hard days here and there where I didn't think humanity deserved it, but I'm just a human, you know. I'm not. There's 8 billion of us, and none of us are steering the Earth. You know, it's kind of this funny situation. Who's fighting for control? Control of what, and what's it control? You know. Well, the answer with psychedelics is everything. The answer in the philosophy of the masters is you are secretly God. It's a trick upon yourself. But that could be the sort of delusion that an ego loves. You know, can you imagine telling a fly he's God and then believing it? It doesn't make any sense. Um, so anyway, I'm glad I never became a killer or a serial killer, but I think I definitely could have. Like all those like serial killer upbringings where the parents are like, the mom says she's the only good woman on earth. Oh my god, dog training, right? I'm going to teach you yes and I'm going to teach you no. My mom had a, you know, leave it to a lonely person who doesn't spend their time around anybody to become a little autocrat and dog train their child. I mean, maybe it's instinct, but it's also hurtful and annoying. You know what I mean? Like, yow. What we know of flow, right? Let's say your kid is like having a great time. You don't need to take a kid and like wrestle him down and twist his ear until he listens to you about how dangerous roads are. You can basically trust that little bugger to do it. And it would also be if he, you know, didn't come back one day that you would know like it was just okay that he had gone off. But you know, humans, maybe that's a little delusional because you know, half these people will eat a fucking baby. You know, if it's not their kid, it's just free plier practice. There's been some horrors unleashed on people. I wouldn't want it. As a person, I can attest that the frailty of my own body is number one in my own psyche 100% of the time. You know, even a little bit of glass can undo you, give you pain is described as extreme discomfort, and I experience it from the smallest infraction, right? And it's that way on purpose because you're the manager of a fucking eco city, and it says that skin was perfectly good. You didn't need to do that. Absolutely zero tolerance for any mistakes or errors. But then again, you have people who get hopped up on crack cocaine, and they can jump through a window, not only jump through a window, but go unscratched. Walk right across the floor and nothing happens because inwardly they have a sort of prayer. So, yeah, I'm at this absolutely baffling conundrum standstill where I 100% do not believe in Moses, the Jews being chosen people, or the Great Flood, or the Adam and Eve story. I think the Bible is a hoax, a hoax, a hoax. And I still think there's a possibility that what people meant by God was 100% fucking honest. But I also don't think God has shown one being anything to say. I don't think a single prophet's ever gotten a single leaflet and copied it exactly. You know what I mean? Like they have more or less taken the fucking magic mushrooms, which is gonna make you crazy. Magic mushrooms will make you see like stuff in the air as though it's real, and yeah, it's an intense psychedelic, and well, I've gone to the point of saying it is real, and it's a type of initiation to see the world that way. That it's not when we say that the person is tripping that they're not false hallucinations. It's not enough to say it's a hallucination. I don't think so. And it's because of this thing's prophetic power. It's also because of this thing's felt psycho-emotional power. And it's also because of the ability of visualizations and hallucinations to jump between people, is they'll all see the same things at the same time. And those things are so interesting that it is, I do believe it's a secret society. So it's why I call myself Grateful Dead, you know, or what the Grateful Dead is the Grateful Dead. First and foremost, let's be real, the Grateful Dead 100% has to do with the drug side of the organization. But what the reason they call it the Grateful Dead and the reason they like it is those people are like way sharers. They're like They're like rivermen in the river Styx, you know. You're going to show a person how to see that thing, okay. They're going to be seeing it too, and there's a lot you can do together on the way. And it's sort of a fascinating art, is that you need the shaman in society because he's the person who knows all the good stops on the psychedelic trip. He knows all the things the thing can do, and he can make it real with you while you're there. And what I have to say is the initiation is, it is real, and this thing, God, wanted to talk to you. And so the Grateful Dead is when you become your dead self. You become your permanent self. When future humans look at a photograph of you, it's that person who's going to look through your eyes. And it's a personal being, and it knows about experience, right? Well, that might be a delusion, right? Uh, what says this thing gives a shit about you at all? As many people have pointed out, it doesn't look like it does. Until a human being is there doing it, this thing doesn't give a crap. Yeah, it's a little bit of a conundrum, but I do have to say that the true God's power is past timing, and the book, the miracle book, is a shortening of time. That's what they call it. Now, religion, if the Bible's totally fake, then clearing your mind and finding stillness in nature are fool's journeys. They're not going to go anywhere. And I posit no stillness in nature because the planet's spinning. You know, the only you that will ever say you and I is the human. And that human's never been still. He has pumps, he has flows, he has jiggles. He's on a rock that lurches and shakes, and he's on a planet spinning. He's on a planet spinning and a sun's flying through space, you know. People took the news that we're just this dance of stars pretty hard, I think. It's made some of them go mad. They've gone straight up crazy with it. They just can't accept it. It has to be something else, you know. Are birds real, you know? It's really questioning. When people that think for yourself does not mean have unique thoughts about you. It means think on your behalf. And what that means is, you know, if you ask any guy if you can have the girl you want, he's going to say no. He's going to say that's his girl. What are you doing? You know? And this place is that way. You want something, you got to fight it. And I found there's no rule of law either. You want to do anything you want to, be bigger and scarier than anybody else. They'll bend over just for you. They'll let you do whatever you want. I've proven this when I wanted to. I read probably the best or the worst book I ever read. Gave the advice, don't be so predictable. And it's opened a lot of doors, because anytime in a situation I ask myself, like, what would be the normal thing to do here? If I've never done the abnormal thing to do there, I'll give that a shot. And I've been doing that for a few years, and it's opened a lot of doors. It has. You know, there's a lot of taboos that I've seen crossed or have crossed that had no recourse but new understanding. And I saw that the taboo was put there by madmen, you know what I mean? Like the lack of a global flood, the lack of a Garden of Eden, and the lack of all these biblical things. Well, this thing's been, Newton himself studied the Bible every day. You know, this thing has arrested the thoughts of man for centuries. It says it's the inviolable holy words. You have to accept what that thing says verbatim, or you're wasting your time. It already told you what to feel about it. Well, when we examine the history, the definite history, and find there's no evidence any of that shit happened, all of a sudden it puts us into a crisis where it was a bunch of humans in a parasitic death cult going, this psycho's words are true, when that psycho made it up. And it's been a shock. It's been a shock to the foundation of what truth is. Because don't we just believe in truth because the Bible was swearing to us words were at the beginning of time? Isn't that the case? Like, if you ask where'd you go, I went to the store. Unless you were there, do you actually know anything about what that was like? Well, old school, you know, you don't know what you don't know is, you wouldn't know anything. But the psychedelic reality is thoughts can jump between people. We're practically in a magical universe, you know what I mean? I'm really serious. Like, the psychedelic reality of the psychedelic, the connectedness between people from that experience is so shocking and such an interesting phenomenon. Uh, it's worth investigating. You know, people who've never had that experience may not know what exactly to look like. Like, I don't feel like I'm paranormally showing that much. If you know how a psychedelic paranormal show looks, yeah, you might see them around me, and sometimes they're intentional, but they're the same thing as a chi ball. A person who learns to move energy in a psychedelic trip can learn to move chi. He can move chi the exact same way. It's a sustainment of mental energy. And I'm probably the wisest person on the planet in regards to this. I mean, I'm up there. I'm up there with Terrence McKenna as far as like just raw enthusiasm. Like, I really believe this stuff. I really believe. Well, I believe that it's possible. Again, you need to keep in mind with this is that there are types of parasites that tell the brain pump the pleasure, up the meaning, make the thing sound like it's ridiculous, and it's just taking you over to spread the parasite. You know what I mean? And so there is a potential that, yeah, I'm just crazy off my mind. Like, I'm just out of my mind insane. Like, I'm just over the top, unredeemably crazy. But I don't think I am, and that's because of the clear and substantial nature, the energy of the thing I found on the psychedelics has remained in real life. It has a paranormal existential presence, and it affects physical reality definitively. And so the way I express how LSD works is LSD makes your ego body, the thing in you clamoring for survival, it makes it shut up by giving it what it wants. But what you find on top of that is an extraordinary amount of clarity and what I call the voice of Christ. You know, it's the being who can give true testimony about things, so to speak. And but I'm a human. The only person who's ever understood that has been me. And so since humans have believed crazy things like the flat earth, I can't conclude beyond a shadow of a doubt that I know anything at all. That the whole thing hasn't been a crazy trip. But I don't think it has. I think it's been really real. And I think it's real for other people who follow in my steps. So good luck. Good luck. You know. A person with interest in healing, you know, and he tries psychedelic chemicals, like so the thing is you get what you think or expect you'll find. It just isn't true, right? Because I've trust me, I've tried to win the lotto several times, and every time it just doesn't work, you know. So the it's just it's kind of a terrible, you know, it's almost better not to know the odds. It's better just to. Is that part in the Bible true? Can the world literally be anything you believe it is? It's frustrating. The answer is almost yes. Is that there is a part of it that's semi-liquid dream. For whatever inexplicable reason that seems to be real. And that's what the ancient prophets talked about. Now, yeah, it could be human invention and human, you know, it's an interesting, like, what is real? How substantial is a claim of a logos, a transcendental superconsciousness of the planet? You know, when something's going on, you kind of just know it. You kind of just feel it. It's because we're all in that togetherness, that electrical field, right? How would the couple approaching me know about the flower of life? How would the time on the clock inside the hotel room be 11:11? You know, I have enough of the paranormal suggestion to say that we might be in a weird reality. If the Bible does turn out to be true, my apologies to history. I didn't mean anything by it. It struck me as a possibility that the Bible was fake and God was real too. And to me that was bizarre. That was almost beyond recognition, and so it has to do with what I'd call snake behavior. Is humans are snakes. He wants to eat. He wants your stuff. You know, if I when I had my sister growing up, any guy that wanted to get to know me wanted to get to know me to get to my sister. It's just 100%, 100%. It's only a matter of time before that's what it was. And I've seen this shit. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, yeah, the Bible says you gotta loose your stuff. You gotta hate the wealth of the world and serve Jesus. Well, the priest is thinking how he's gonna get a congregation. Well, everyone needs a job, and they need to be willing to give me some of what they have, and so I'm going to just work on them and I'm gonna use hellfire and all this like superstition to do it. It's a racket. It was there I mean, here's the basic fallacy of the Bible. If God existed, he could tell me about it. He wouldn't need you to do it. And that's so true. And so what the Bible assumed is that God had a basically like God has guards in a lot of esoteric traditions, is that he can be hurt by filth. God can be hurt by filth. God can be hurt by the gross things. God is utter purity, and things like sexual immorality and just dirt are offensive to him. Well, I've seen the face of God in dirt. In fact, I don't know how to play that Compton song, that ching 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 ching. But I was I was riffing in LA, and this, I'm gonna use the N word, this nigga came up, and as soon as he walked in my aura, I was playing this Compton song, but I'd never played it before in my life. And while it was happening, I was seeing uh as I joke, I saw some dude. He's like, he tried to razz me. He tried to razz me out of my money. He's like, "Don't you owe me?" As I was like, "Man, I just met you." And he walked away and he said some shit, but he was like, "Cause I'm a nigga." He said that, and I looked up my back of my car and I go, "Hey, your word, not mine." And he looked like he saw a ghost. He was like comedy testing me, and I could tell I'd passed. I was like, this is a juicy one. Weird, not mine. I don't mind it. I mean, basically they made it look cool. They made it look funny. They made it so you were uncool if you didn't have the N word. And so I'm extremely like interested in what we call the prayers of King David. You know, what can you ask the universe for that it'll actually give you? And if it gives it to you, it means it's God giving it to you. Number one would be revenge. If you ask the universe for revenge and it does it for you, does that mean you were just? Does that mean some other being's taken it on? Does that mean that could you go to hell for asking for that? You know, there's a bunch of fuzzy questions. You can be like, what do you mean? Well, I mean, the guy fucking running out of his house with pee running down his leg, changing his fucking clothes at the neighbors. I mean, just the absolute lowliest. How would that happen? A day of meditation where I took acid at the park and I meditated and I saw this dodecahedron. That day when I came back, I was just sitting in the parking lot. You know, I think pretty much missed. I had tinting on the windows at the time. There was no way anyone could see in. But yeah, this fucking idiot goes running out of his house with pee running down his leg and like 3 changes of pajamas in his arms. He had had some terrifying wet dreams. Something like that had happened. Why should I witness it? Well, I had just paid for a revenge spell. And then I remembered after I saw that guy had been making fists at me. That every time he's outside smoking, he has a bald fist. Yeah, he plays fighting games all day and lives with this giant fat troll, and they have a daughter that looks black. And I've seen other people that have his hair, and he's got the clown hair, you know what I mean? Like bald here and poofy poofy. Like bald here and then poofy poofy. Like just like he looks like an idiot. But anyway, and that dude had like a major smite of revenge. Like out of the universe, I'd never seen a person pee his pants. You can't fake cry like that. He was blubbering. Like he was like water works. All of his orifices had opened and released fluid. He had just had a night terror. I'd been at the park all day meditating. What did that mean? And I saw real things in meditation. What did that mean? You know, would it have been I turned to the person next to me, you see that guy? No, what guy? What are you talking about? I never saw a guy. Would it have been that? I don't think I imagined it. I think that really happened. I think that really freaking happened. And so, yeah, what I found is that the psychedelic only works because you expect it to. And it is like the trick with mentalists is that a person can create a magical state of consciousness by allowing it to exist in the universe. And so at the same time I'm finding out the Bible is a hoax, I'm also accepting the presence of like high wizardry and high magic, which is definitely real. Denying that exists is a foolish errand, you know. And so maybe the Bible will turn out to be the 100% truth of God, and all the things it says literally happened and you should fucking praise it. But it also says a lot of really weird things, and the history just doesn't look like the history of the earth. And so I'm confused. Do all of these scientists need a magical upgrade to get the special eyes to find? You know, it's like a truly holy artifact you wouldn't be able to find as a skeptic. You would need to invoke the presence of the journey with faith or whatever. But why faith? Well, faith exists only if you're telling me a tall tale. It's so interesting to wake up and go, faith as a value is meaningless. It really is. It's a meaningless value, and it was designed because the person talking to you had nothing to be faithful in. There's no credibility to any other stories, and they need you to be faithful because that's the trick. And so people for centuries have said faith and all these biblical values have made it as human values for centuries, and we're finding out the book is full of hockey gooey made up nonsense, and it's kind of a shock. And combining that with psychedelic explorations, ugh, I'm in a spot. I'm in a spot that's weird. You know what I mean? Being extremely rational and grounded may sound like an inviting premise, but I also think that an audience with psychedelic chemicals would create the sort of show that they need to see what I'm talking about. I would love to do an invitational, like an invitational of world minds, people who matter. Let me take you on an acid journey the way I see it. And you'll come out a fucking Shiva. You'll come out a god. You'll see your energy and the world's energy will be merged finally as deeply as it comes. That's what I say, and I think that's real.